This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
I sure appreciate you all being here. I'm glad you're able to take your time and come here and see me tonight. My name is Dick Blackstone, and I wrote a book called Nuts and Bolts Spirituality. And if you had known me before I got onto this spiritual path, you would probably not have voted me the most likely person to write a book about spirituality. And I would have had to agree with you. But you know, the universe has a funny way of doing things, and I kept being guided to answer these innermost questions that I had about life. And I'm not talking about the big questions like, how do you know God, or, you know, what's our purpose here? I'm talking about some more mundane things like, how can I bring more abundance into my life? You know, in other words, how can I make more money? And things like, how can I make my relationships run smoother, and how can I be more successful? So you see, I didn't start out on this quest to be a spiritual messenger. I just started out just trying to improve my life. You know, just like most of you people here today, you're just trying to improve your life. So what I found out while I was trying to improve my life was about 20 years ago, a friend of mine called me up, and he said, hey Dick, why don't you turn on the TV and watch this guy that's on there talking? So I turned on the tube, and it was one of those PBS fundraisers, and there was a spiritual master there by the name of Deepak Chopra. And he was given a talk about a book he had written called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And so I listened to Deepak's talk, and I was just totally fascinated. It was the first time I've ever seen him. In fact, probably the first time I'd seen a spiritual master really talk. And I was just totally intrigued with what he had to say. And I didn't know it at the time, but those were my first baby steps on this path of spirituality. And you know, it didn't hit me like a bolt of lightning or anything. In fact, my life was pretty much the same, except that I was motivated enough to go out and buy the book. And then I read the book. And then I read the book again. And after that, I read the book again. And if you've ever read that book, you know it's not real hard to do. It's not a real big book. But the words in that book, these 7 spiritual laws, they really started me working on myself. And I took those principles and I started applying them to my life. And what I found out was that by applying those principles into my life, life just seemed to smooth out for me. You know, I started working on my relationships by using the principles of love and kindness and generosity and service. And my relationships started smoothing out. And then I applied these principles to my business, and my business just took off. I mean, I doubled my income in 1 year from applying the principles of service and gratitude and love rather than just trying to make money. So I'm here to tell you that this stuff really works. Now, let me make a little disclaimer there. This stuff really works for me. Now, it can really work for you too, but that would be entirely your choice. Because what you're going to find out here is that everything in life is a matter of choice. You know, I made a choice about 20 years ago to turn on the TV and watch Deepak Chopra. And after that, I made another choice in my life. I made a choice to live my life more consciously. And what I found out from living my life more consciously was that you bring into your life that which you put your attention on. So by following this spiritual path and putting my attention on these spiritual principles, I was able to bring into my life the ability to see Deepak live. He gave a live presentation a couple months ago up in Portland area about another book he had written called The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire. And if you've ever seen Deepak live, I mean, it's just fascinating talker, and of course he really knows his stuff. And early on in the speech, he started talking about the 5 secrets that could heal the world. And then he made a disclaimer, and he says, you know, you really only need to know the first secret. And the first secret is to understand the true nature of how things work. If man could just understand the true nature of how things work, then we could align with that understanding and achieve these elusive ideals of inner peace and peace on earth. You know, if man just knew the nuts and bolts of spirituality, then we could align ourselves with the understanding of the true nature of how things work. So what I have done is to have chosen the path of the messenger. And the message I live is threefold. First, what we are is love. Love is at the core of our being, and we can tap into using it at any time. Secondly, we are all one. We are all one with the source of everything that is. We are not separate from the source. We are all one with the source. And thirdly, we are all here to create the lives of our intentions and desires. Each of us has within us these powers of creation that the source from which we came has. We can tap into using these powers at any time and create the life that we intend. And we are creating our lives every second through our choices. So what we're going to do here tonight is we're going to have a little fun, and we're going to talk about this topic called spirituality with the intention of coming to clarity on some of the beliefs that we hold about life. And as we explore these belief systems, we're going to put them to a test. And the test we're going to use is as simple as a 4-word question. But I don't want you to get too worried about passing the test. Because you see, no matter what answer you give, it will be the correct answer for you. You cannot flunk this test. It's kind of like life. You cannot flunk life. As long as you are living, you are passing life's test. And you will continue to pass life's test as long as you continue to be alive. Now, whether or not you are enjoying yourself while you're going through the life test is once again answered by the 4-word question. And the 4-word question we're going to use as we explore our belief systems is this: does this serve me? Does it serve you to believe that you are separate from all other people, separate from this planet that sustains you, and separate from God? Or does it serve you to believe that you are one with all people, one with your environment, and one with God? These are the 2 belief systems we're going to look at as we explore the nuts and bolts of spirituality. And as we do so, I'd ask you to open your hearts and open your minds to the information you're about to receive. I'd like you to suspend any judgments or preconceived notions you may have about this concept called spirituality, and just listen to the words and the ideas. And don't put any labels on them, because when you do that, you limit your perspective. And from a limited perspective, you can't see the whole picture. So just listen to the words and the ideas, and then ask yourself, does this serve me? If the words and the ideas seem to resonate with your inner guidance system, if they have that ring of truth to them, then you may want to incorporate them into your thought process for your own evolvement. Now, if these words do not have that ring of truth to you, then you may not want to incorporate them into your life. It is entirely your choice. However, here's what I would ask you to do. Ask yourself the 4-word question whenever you hear something or want to analyze any person, event, or experience in your life. Ask yourself, does this serve me? Does it serve you to continue to believe that you are a separate person from all people and things and separate from God? Or does it serve you to believe that you are one with all things and one with your source? That is the question I want you to ask yourself when you leave here today. And the answer you get will be the answer that you yourself will make. Don't take my word on what serves you best. We've all done that throughout our lives, and look where it's taken us. Look at your own life and look at the world society we live in and ask yourself, have I been served by my beliefs? Okay, so what is spirituality? Well, first let's start out by saying what spirituality is not. And spirituality is not religion. Now, religion is a belief system that comes from a particular point of view, and not all people hold the same religious beliefs. In fact, not all people participate in religion or church of any kind. Spirituality, on the other hand, is universal. All people participate in it, and all people agree with it, even if they don't know it, and even if they don't call it that. Because you see, spirituality is nothing more than life itself, expressing in physical form. Spirituality says that all things are part of life and there is an interconnectedness to everything. Now, you will hear arguments about whether or not there is a God, and you will hear arguments about whether or not all things are part of God. But you cannot argue about whether there is life, because obviously this is so. Here we are. And you cannot argue about whether all things that we know of in this physical universe are part of life. So what we are left to be concerned with and argue about is whether life and God are the same things. Now, even an agnostic or an atheist would tell you that there's some force in the universe holding it all together. And there's also something that started it all. And this something that started it all existed before the universe, as we know it, existed. So even if you say that the universe burst into being out of thin air, you still have to account for first cause. What caused something to arise out of nothing at all? Well, this first cause is life itself, expressing in physical form. It is life in formation. Now, you can't really disagree that life exists. It's obviously so. But you can, however, disagree and argue about what to call it, how to describe it, what to infer from it, and what to conclude. And this is where religions come into the process. Because religions attempt to label and codify the life process and then infer certain traits from it and then make deductions about their conclusions. And that's why there are so many religions out there, but only one concept called spirituality. And all of these religions are separate from each other, where spirituality is an all-inclusive theory that says we are all one. Now, when we use the word God, we are talking about first cause. We are talking about that which was before that which is was. We are talking about that which will be after that which is no more. We are talking about the Alpha and the Omega. In spirituality, you understand that the words life and God are interchangeable. So if the process that we are observing is the process of life in formation, then you and I are all gods in formation, because life and God are interchangeable. So in other words, we are God's information. So in order to get real clarity on the life process and this concept called spirituality, we have to look at what is arguable concerning the process and then ask ourselves, does this serve me? Ask yourself this. If you were the world emperor and you could dictate how the world should be, Would you create a world of killing and destruction? A world where there's a very real possibility that you could destroy the livability of this planet with your own hand? Would you create your own life to be one of quiet desperation and struggle and a fear of not having enough of life's bounty? What if you could create an effortless life of peace, joy, and love? What if you could create a world where all people lived in harmony and the pervasive attitude was one of love instead of fear? A world where all people had the true freedom to pursue a life of their own passion rather than a job of drudgery. A world where all people are honored and truly had the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I'm here to tell you that you do have that power. You have within you the true, authentic power to create your life and the world we live in any manner that you choose. It is all a matter of choice. Now, what we have done as individuals and as societies is to have chosen a belief system that does not allow us to be the highest vision of ourselves as individuals or as societies. We have chosen a belief system that is based in fear. We have chosen a belief system that says we are separate from each other and separate from God. And because we have chosen this belief system, we are living within the consequences of our choices. Remember, this is all a choice. We as individuals and as societies have the free will to make another choice if we so desire. We can choose to live within a belief system that says we are all one. And this is a love-based belief system. And this belief system is designed to allow us to truly live within the adage of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Because in this belief system, that is the way it is. What you do for another, you do for yourself. And what you do for yourself, you do for another. So, what we're talking about here again are two belief systems. The question, once again, is which of these belief systems serves us? Each of you must go within yourself and answer that question. The answer you get will be the answer that you yourself will make. And once you make that decision, I want you to be what serves you. Okay, let's go into the real nuts and bolts of spirituality so that we can better understand where we are today and why we have come to believe so strongly that we are separate. Now, what we usually start with is that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, we all know Genesis 1:1. But you know, we're looking for the real nuts and bolts here, so our questions must be, first of all, why did God create the universe in the first place? And secondly, what is our purpose in that creation? Now, when we can answer these questions, we can begin to see the bigger picture of life, and from that understanding, we can see our own lives with more clarity and awareness. Unless you don't. It's all a matter of choice. So, why did God create the universe in the first place, and what is our purpose in that creation? Now, our scientists can trace the origins of the universe back in time, and they tell us that everything that makes up the universe came from a huge explosion of energy about 14 to 15 billion years ago. And from this expanding energy, the entire universe was created. Now, this is called the Big Bang Theory, and it is the most widely held theory about the origins of the universe. So, for our discussion here tonight, we are going to accept this scientifically documented theory, and by doing so, we must say that everything that exists, the stars, the planets, the galaxies, the mountains, the oceans, the animals, the plants, the air we breathe, you and I, and everything that exists came from the source of this Big Bang. Now, can we all agree on that? Okay. So, everything that exists came from the source of everything. And that's perfectly logical. Now, this source of everything is what most people in the world call God. Now, you can call this source many things. You can call it God or Shawa or Allah, nature, Elohim, Brahma. There's many names for the source, but for our discussion here tonight, we're going to call the source God. And this source is neither male nor female, so we're going to be using both genders when we talk about God here tonight. Now this source, this God, this source of everything, also knows everything there is to know about everything in the universe and beyond the universe, the physical and the metaphysical. She has to. If you are the source of everything that is, then you know all there is to know all the time. So, prior to the creation of the universe, God existed in the realm of the absolute. Now, in the realm of the absolute, God knows all things conceptually. And God is all things conceptually. At the core of God is love, and the only love that God knows conceptually is unconditional love. God is the all of everything, and love is what God is. Now this God, this source of everything, knows everything conceptually, but knowing is not enough. It was God's desire to experience what she knows. You see, you can believe yourself to be generous, but unless you display an act of generosity, all you have is a concept. You know, you can believe yourself to be kind, but unless you do somebody a kindness, all you have is this idea about yourself. And it was God's desire to turn her grandest concepts into her greatest experiences. You see, until concept becomes experience, all there is speculation. So, let's go into a little detail here so that we can get the full flavor of God's desire to experience herself. Now, stay with me on this, because this is the information that is going to make all the rest of your life make sense. Okay, now God, the source of all there is, while residing in the realm of the absolute, knows that she is all there is, and there is nothing else. Yet, all there is cannot know itself, because all there is all there was, and there was nothing else. There was no other reference point outside of God, outside of all there is. So God, the source of all that is, knew that she was all there is. But this was not enough, because she could only know her utter magnificence conceptually. But it was God's desire to experience her magnificence. She wanted to know what it felt like to be so magnificent. But this she could not do, because the very term magnificent is relative to that which magnificent is not. You see, in the absence of that which is not, that which is not. It's this thing called relativity. Now, in the realm of the absolute, everything that is known is a concept. Only through relativity can you match a concept to something that the concept is not, and thereby experience it. So God, source of all that is, knew that there was nothing else. There was no other reference point outside of God, outside of all there is. And God is all there is. Only one reference point exists, and that is God. So God knew that if she desired to experience all that she knew conceptually, she would have to use a reference point within. And this is something we should all remember all the time. Use the reference point within. So God reasoned that he knew that he was all there was, so he reasoned that by dividing the source of all into portions, each portion being less than the whole, could look back on the rest of itself and see magnificence. God, in one big bang, became that which is this and that which is that. God created the universe of relativity in order for God to know experientially all that she knows conceptually. And this is the greatest gift that God ever gave to herself, to know herself. And this universe of relativity is God's greatest gift to us. Because relativity is the mechanism that allows God to experience herself in, as, and through us. Just as God created the physical universe as a division of all that is, she also created the metaphysical universe as well, from which exploded an infinite number of energy units smaller than the whole. These energy units are what we call spirits. God's purpose in dividing herself into these spirit units was for God to know herself experientially. You see, there is only one way for the Creator to know herself experientially as the Creator, and that is to create. So each of these countless parts of the whole, these spirit children, were given the same powers of creation that the Creator has as the whole. When we say that we were created in the image and likeness of God, that does not mean that we all physically look like God, although technically that's true because God is all things, but rather what we are saying is that we all have the same properties and abilities as God, including the ability to create physical matter out of thin air. So, God's purpose in creating the universe was for God to know herself experientially as God. That is the reason that the universe was created in the first place. God's purpose for creating us was so that we could experience in the physical realm all that God knows of in the realm of the absolute as concepts. So that is our purpose here in the realm of the physical. We are in a giant collaboration with God. Our mission is to experience life in all of its different perspectives in order for God to know through our experiences all that she knows of as concepts. And how do we have these experiences? We create them. We have free will to create our lives in any manner that we choose. There is no agenda set out for us except what we choose as an agenda. We are free to be whoever we choose to be. The state of beingness that you choose will determine what you end up doing. Because beingness creates doingness. And this is a critical point in our awakening. It is important for you to understand the concept that your beingness creates your doingness. That's why there's so much frustration and turmoil out there, because most people are real concerned about what they are doing, but not giving a thought about who they are being. Now, when you wake up and start living in awareness, you start concentrating on who you are being, and trust and understand that your doingness will spring from that. Now, we're going to come back to this in a while, but for now, let's stay with this idea of what is our purpose here and how this concept of relativity makes it all work. Okay, remember, God created the physical universe as a stage upon which God could know herself experientially. God also created the metaphysical universe as well, from which exploded an infinite number of energy units smaller than the whole. These energy units are what we call spirits. God's purpose in dividing herself into these spirit units was for God to know herself experientially. So, each spirit, each individuation of God, knows all that God knows. So why don't we act more God-like with each other? And why don't we stop killing each other? And why don't we have inner peace and peace on earth? Well, the answer lies in this beautiful concept called relativity. Relativity tells us that you cannot know something as an experience until you first come to know the opposite. This idea that you can't know the concept of tall unless you also come to know something that's not tall, something we might call short. This idea that you can't know hot unless you also come to know cold. Everything in the physical universe is relative. Now, what we are is spirit children of God. That is who we are. Always have been and always will be for eternity. That is who we really are. So, how do we not be that? Well, we cause ourselves to forget that. What we do is we make an agreement with God to voluntarily forget who we really are upon entering the physical universe. This agreement, this collaboration with God, allows us to choose to be who we are rather than knowing all along that we are a spirit child of God. It is in this wonderful gift of forgetting who we really are that we are allowed to choose the experiences in life that define ourselves. Without this voluntary amnesia of who we really are, we wouldn't have any choice about something over which there is no choice. We are spirit children of God no matter what. We cannot not be that. However, we can forget that. And it is in this forgetting of who we really are that we are allowed to choose the experiences in life that define ourselves. Now, in our knowing of ourselves as a spirit child of God, with all the same powers and abilities as God, we cannot experience ourselves as creators unless and until we create. And you cannot create yourself until you uncreate yourself. You have to first not be in order to be. Okay? So that's how we come to the realization that we have to forget who we are before we can enter this physical universe. You see, without this voluntary amnesia of who we really are, we wouldn't have any choice about something over which there is no choice. We are spirit children of God no matter what. We cannot not be that. However, we can forget that. And it is in this forgetting of who we really are that we are allowed to make the relative choices in life that allow us to remember who we really are. And as we remember, that is, become a member once again of who we really are, we can also remember who everybody else is. That's why a big part of our purpose here is to remind others so that they can remember also. You might say it's your soul, S-O-U-L, purpose. Now, as you can see in this world that we live in today, this voluntary amnesia really works. Most people have a real good handle on who they are not. This does not change the fact, however, that who they really are is a spirit child of God, with all the same powers and abilities as God. It just means that they are living within a belief system that allows them to believe that they do not possess the same powers of creation that God does. But don't we have choice in all matters? If we have choice about ideas such as peace or war, why do we keep choosing war? If we have ideas about love or fear, why do we keep choosing fear? You know, if we have ideas about life being effortless or life being a struggle, why do we continue to struggle? Ladies and gentlemen, it all comes down to what we have chosen, both individually and as societies, as to what we believe. We have chosen a belief system that says we accept the voluntary amnesia of being who we are not, and by doing so, we are saying that who we are not is how we choose to define ourselves. Now, if this is your choice, well, that is okay. But I want you to ask yourself this question. Does this serve me? Does my individual struggle to meet my basic needs serve me? Does my participation in a society that kills people and destroys this planet serve me? If you believe it does, then continue to make those choices. But what if you knew of another belief system that would end your life of struggle? What if you knew of a belief system that honored all people and the planet that sustains us? Would you choose such a belief system to live by? Well, it does exist, and the basic premise of this belief system is based on the idea that you and I are all spirit children of God. We are all one in a quest to know experientially all that we know of conceptually. We are in a giant collaboration with God. And what a neat idea. Because this God is fun to play with. Because He lets you do exactly what you choose without retribution. Because she is experiencing everything in, as, and through you without judgment. So, what is holding us back from living a life that serves us? Why are we believe so strongly in being who we are not? What are the forces at work that keep us tied to this idea that we are separate from each other and separate from God? Well, to answer these questions, let's take a look at what I like to call the two theories of the universe. Now, the first theory of the universe says that God is a monarch and the universe is basically inert. So God is like a king, and He is superior to us, and we are subjects to Him. It's like the divine right of kings. And at your core, there is something basically wrong with you. You were born with original sin. You cannot be trusted. And because you cannot be trusted, you have to depend on this source outside of you that you are separate from in order to sustain yourself. Now, where this came from is very bizarre because none of the great spiritual teachers or leaders of the time, you know, people like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, Moses, Abraham, none of them taught this philosophy. What happened was that when men came along later and recorded these teachers' histories and then established religions based on those teachings, the religions that were established thought it would be better to tell people that they were separate from the divine rather than one with the divine. And why is that? Well, so that they would be able to control us. You see, if you are thought to be inferior to the divine, then you would have to depend on the religion for guidance. Now, the problem with this theory is that if you subscribe to it, you will always be lost. And most of the people in the world subscribe to it. Generally, God is seen as a male, a dead white male who resides in heaven and makes decisions and grants wishes in accordance with some rules and guidelines that He knows and we don't. Now, we have a general idea, but we're not really sure. And you will stay lost because at your core, you are untrustworthy. So everything that you say and act upon is coming from this untrustworthy source. So you can never ever actualize yourself, and you can never ever be divine nor can you become a manifester, as Jesus said, and do all that I have done and even greater things. You can't do that if you subscribe to this theory of God as the boss, because the only one who really knows is the boss's son. And the boss's son is different than you. You are not the boss's son. So that is theory number one. Now, the second theory of the universe says that God is not a dead white male in heaven, but that God is a universal intelligence that flows through all things, and at its core is love. And it does not judge, and it does not condemn, and it is everywhere, it is universal, and it is not born, and it does not die. It is eternal. Now, because this theory says that God is everywhere and there is nothing that God is not, then we must believe that this universal intelligence, this infinite energy, is in us and part of us, and we can tap into using it at any time we want. When you subscribe to this theory, you see that you are not separate from the divine, but you are one with the divine energy that is everywhere. It is universal. One song, universe. This theory allows you to liberate yourself from any preconceived conditions that were handed to you by your great teachers. People like your mother and father and your school teachers, your religious leaders, and of course, the almighty television. But the most profound and the most fun thing that this theory gives us is this ability to create our lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How you can create the life of your intentions. Now let me say that again. You can create the life of your intentions and desires. So what we have here are two belief systems. Theory number one of the universe is has a belief system that says we are separate from each other and is fear-based. Theory number two says that we are all one and is love-based. Theory number one is supported by all of the world's major religions as a means of controlling the masses. And this is one of those oddities in the world we live in where we have to know who we are not before we can understand who we really are. It's all part of this wonderful grand plan that God devised when He created the physical universe and this concept of relativity. It all holds true because relativity tells us that you cannot understand something as a concept until you first understand what the concept is not. You know, this idea that you can't know the concept of generous unless you also come to know stingy. And you can't know the concept of oneness until you first understand the concept of separateness. Now, the world we live in today is ruled by the belief that we are separate from each other and separate from God. And by believing we are separate, we are doing things that do not seem to serve us. By being separate, what we are doing is killing our fellow human beings and destroying the ability of this planet to sustain the life form known as human beings. Remember, our beingness creates our doingness. And what we are being is separate. The question once again is, does believing that we are separate serve us? Each of you must go within yourselves and answer that question. The answer that you decide on will determine who you choose to be, and in that choice will you manifest the beingness you choose through your doingness. The belief that we are separate is supported by all the world major religions, and all these religions were founded by the teachings of masters who taught us that we are all one in the eyes of a God who loves us unconditionally. So we have these religious institutions that have a vested interest in maintaining a structure that has the right foundation, that is, that we are all one in the eyes of God, but it has the wrong architecture. That is, that we are separate from each other and separate from God. Unfortunately, religion has resorted to using fear as the glue that holds it all together, rather than love. Religions tell us that if you don't believe according to their particular doctrine, then you may be subject to being judged unworthy and denied entrance into heaven. Now, love would never say that. Ask yourself this: does that serve me? Spirituality says that at our core, just like God, we are love. The belief that we are separate is a fear-based belief. The belief that we are one is a love-based belief. Ask yourself this: am I better served by love or by fear? So, here we are in the present moment. We have opened our hearts and our minds to receive this information without judgment, with the idea of reaching clarity on what serves us. By viewing the world and observing what is so, we observe that for the past 2,000 years of recorded history, man has relied on the world's great religions to answer our innermost questions concerning life and our relationship with the source of life, God. We observe that all of these major religions were founded by the teachings of masters who taught us that we are all one in the eyes of a God who loves us unconditionally. We observe that these major religions have adopted a point of view that says, if you don't believe according to our particular doctrine, then you may be subject to being judged unworthy and denied entrance into heaven. We observe that this is a fear-based belief system solely supported by the concept that we are separate from each other and separate from God. That is the only way it will work. We observe that any attempt to change these fear-based beliefs is almost impossible to do. The institutions won't allow it. In other words, what we observe is that religions have not evolved and changed with the other cycles and institutions of life. Now, one thing we know for sure is that life is change. Nothing stands still in life. Nothing. We are changing moment to moment. Every cell of our body is changing, and it has been documented that in 7 years, every cell of your body is different. We are all changing. Everything that we know of in this physical universe is moving and vibrating and changing. From the cells of our bodies to this building to Mount Everest. When you put it all under a huge microscope, we see that everything is moving. We are all evolving. This world we live in is changing at a rapid pace, one might say an accelerated pace. You know, about 100 years ago, the world was largely agriculturally based. And then we went through an industrial revolution, had an industrial base. And then we've gone through a technology revolution, and now we're in a communications and information revolution. We are advancing headlong into areas that we cannot foresee with the technological ability to develop weapons of mass destruction that can destroy our very planet. And what do we have to guide us through these tremulous times? Fear-based religions that have not evolved or changed in over 2,000 years. Now, are we to believe that God talked to the great teachers of these religions, people like Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha, Krishna, and then that was it? You mean nobody has been given an update or a message that we may have misinterpreted something by the people who wrote down the stories of these messengers, sometimes hundreds of years after the teacher's death? You mean nobody has been given guidance by God or talked to God in all this time? I don't think so. Well, I'm here to tell you that God talks to everybody. Not just a chosen few, but everybody. We are a three-part being, made up of mind, body, and spirit. We are all spirit children of God. And as such, we are all part of God. Not some of us, but all of us. We are all one with God. Not part of the time, all of the time. We are all in a giant collaboration with God. And if what you are experiencing is a belief that you are separate from God and a fear of God, well, that is okay. God isn't going to punish you or send you to hell, because this physical place called hell does not even exist except in your mind. God isn't going to stop loving you if you do something wrong. In God's world, there is no right or wrong. In God's world, there only is what is. And when you look at what is, you begin to wake up and see that God has it correct. There is no right or wrong. There is only what is so. And then you look at what is so, and I mean you really look at it, and you ask yourself, does this serve me? If it serves you, then use it and put the meaning to it that will take you to where you want to go. If it does not serve you, then choose again from the infinite variety of choices available to you and see if that serves you. Remember, we are at total choice in all matters. When you are sleepwalking, you don't think you have a lot of choices. When you wake up and live in awareness, you see nothing but choices. That's why it's so important to wake up. And the alarm clock that wakes you up isn't sitting on your nightstand. It is within you. You must go within yourself to activate it. You need to prioritize yourself in the decisions you make about your life. You need to take an inventory of yourself and ask yourself, who do I choose to be? You need to make a decision about what you choose as a vision of where you want to be. And when you do that, then you merely move towards that vision. It is as simple and as complex as that. But here's the good news. You get the simple part, and you let God and the universe do the complex part. And the simple part is to merely tell God who you intend to be. And the key is to do this consciously instead of unconsciously like the sleepwalkers do. Are you ready to change your life? Is there a higher vision of yourself that you aspire to be? Well, you came to the right place, because I'm going to tell you here today how you can create the life of your intentions and desires. You can create yourself anew because as a spirit child of God, you possess the same powers of creation that God does. The thing is that we voluntarily forgot that when we entered this physical universe. But now we're going to remember it again, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do right here, right now, right after we take about a 5 or 10-minute break. So what we're going to do is take a little break here, get up and move around a little bit, have some water, and then we'll meet back here, and we're going to talk about how you can create the life of your intentions and desires. So thank you very much. Okay, well, welcome back. You know, I love this part of the program, because this ability to create yourself anew is how I got on this stage here today. I am a living example of our ability to create. Let me tell you a little story. You know, before I got onto this spiritual path, you know, I was out there stumbling through life just like most people. I was sleepwalking. You know, I heard what other people were telling me to do, and I bought into the idea that I was a separate person who had to fend for myself because it's a jungle out there. And the best way to get through life was to believe in this thing called the law of the survival of the fittest. And so that's what I did. And, you know, it seemed to work most of the time. But, you know, I was really lucky in life. You know, I was born in America, and you're way ahead of the game right there. And I was born with white skin, and I came to find out that on the ladder to success, this is a very important factor. And I was born with a love of reading, which has opened so many doors in my life. So I had all this going for me, and life just seemed to work for me. You know, I did well in school. I was a pretty fair athlete. I went to college, went through in 4 years, and I didn't have a lot of trouble making money. You know, it was never enough, of course, because when your ego rules your life, there is never enough. But you know, all through my life, I've had this idea that there was something I didn't know, the knowing of which could change my life in a better, more profound way. Well, like I said in the beginning of the program, about 20 years ago, I met my first spiritual mentor, Deepak Chopra. And I met him through this book of the seven Spiritual Laws of Success. And what that book did was get me started to working on my ego. And what I found out was that the more I was able to suppress my ego, the clearer life became to me. I finally started seeing the parts of life's puzzle start to fit together, and I was really pleased with the direction my life was taking. And so I told myself, well, I'm going to stay on this path and kind of see where it takes me. And then in 1995, I had this habit of eating breakfast at a little restaurant in Eugene. What I do is come in and eat breakfast, read the paper, and then go off to the office. There was this great little grandmother kind of cook, and she made these fantastic omelets, and they were really cheap. And I'm kind of a cheap guy too, so I really love this place. And what I do is come in, and I came in one morning, and I usually pick up the local paper, which is the Register Guard there, but some other patron had taken it. So the only paper on the table was the Oregonian. So I picked it up, went to my table, ordered my breakfast, and opened it up to the front page. And there was an article there about this fellow from Ashland, Oregon. Think about that. And he had written a book about what he called Conversations with God. Now, his name is Neil Donald Walsh, and you know, as I was reading the article, remember this is 1995, I was thinking, well, gee, that's kind of interesting. Here's another fella from Oregon, and he's on a spiritual path, and you know, he wrote a book, and that's pretty cool. So I finished my breakfast and went off to work, and later that morning I was in Costco, and as I like to do there, I went to like to go to the book section. So I walked to the book section, and I walked straight to this book called Conversations with God, Book 1. Now, do you see any synchronicities going on here? And that's what I love about this spiritual path is following these synchronicities that come into your life and actually realizing that they're there. So, of course, I bought the book, and I took it home, and I started reading it that night. And from the opening passage, I was totally intrigued with what the book had to say. And then early on in the book, in fact, is on page 20, I read the following words that have transformed my life. And the God character in the book, he said, the biggest secret to life is that life is not a process of discovery, but a process of creation. Now, man, that just blew me away. And then he went on to say that you are not discovering yourself, but creating yourself anew. Seek, therefore, not to find out who you are, seek to determine who you want to be. Now, think about this for a moment. And I'm really glad that we all agreed to open our hearts and open our minds here, because when we do that, we open ourselves up to all kinds of information here. First of all, if we get to create ourselves anew, then we can be whoever we choose to be. Now, the two key words here are be and choose. So listen again. If we get to create ourselves anew, then we can be whoever we choose to be. It's not what you choose to do, it's who you choose to be. And this is a critical point in our awakening. You know, you don't do happy and then you are. First you be happy, and then you do happy things. So I said to myself, well, if this is true, then I don't need to keep wondering about my life and what's going to happen next. I can just create myself as I desire myself to be. Man, what a concept. What if it's true? What if I can create myself to be the person that I've always wanted to be? This was my missing knowledge. This was what I didn't know, the knowing of which could change my life forever. And now I knew. No more excuses, because along with this knowledge was the idea that whatever you create, you are solely responsible for. You can't blame other people or circumstances for your creations. And make no mistake about it, you have created or co-created everything that has happened in your life. You have created the fact that you are here right now listening to these words. There are no mistakes in the universe. There are no coincidences or circumstances that happen by chance. The creative process never stops, and think about it. You have created your life. Everything that has happened up to this point in time is because you chose for it to happen. Now, here's the deal. You are a creating machine, and you create all the time. The difference between you knowing this or not is answered by the question, are you creating consciously or unconsciously? The question is not whether you are creating. You are creating. But are you making conscious choices, or are you sleepwalking through life and accepting the consequences of your unconscious choices and being unaware of what's happening? Now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the creative process so that we can better understand and make more conscious choices about who we desire to be, because beingness is what we're after here. You don't create what you do, you create who you choose to be, and from that beingness will you do the things it takes to manifest the beingness you choose. Ultimately, what we seek when we choose to create is to be the grandest version of the greatest vision ever you held about who you are. So the creative process occurs with a very simple formula, simple yet complex. And once again, you get the simple part, and you let God and the universe do the complex part. And your part is to merely tell God what you desire, and the universe brings it into your reality. The formula goes something like this. We create our life experiences and fulfill our intentions by the three-step process of thought, word, and deed. It is as simple as thinking the thoughts that you wish to pursue and manifest, speaking those thoughts through written or spoken words, and then doing the deeds or actions which ultimately manifest our creations. Everything starts with a thought. Whatever man can conceive, man can achieve. So our thoughts are very powerful. And if this is so, then it becomes extremely important to monitor our thoughts. Because every thought is creative and is based on one of two emotions. And the two emotions from which all thoughts come to us are either love or fear. All the thoughts that go through our heads are either love-based thoughts or fear-based thoughts. Now, you have no choice about this because there's nothing else from which to choose. It's either love-based or fear-based. But you do have free choice about which thoughts you wish to pursue. You see, thoughts create at one level. They are not as powerful as words, and words are not as powerful as the deeds or actions which ultimately manifest our creations. We have thoughts all the time. So the key is to consciously pick out the thoughts that you wish to pursue in order to answer the question, is this who I am? Now, this creative process is powerful and pervasive. So it's extremely important to think consciously instead of unconsciously, so that you can consciously pick out the experiences in your life. And remember, the universe doesn't judge your choices. The creative process works for all thoughts that you wish to pursue. Good, bad, and ugly thoughts can all be created. As an example, Hitler created his reality from his thoughts, and he manifested them through his words and deeds. And he had the help of the German people who co-created the Hitler experience with him. And by the way, Hitler went to heaven too, because God doesn't judge or condemn. So you see, we not only create individually, but we also create collectively when our thoughts, words, and deeds are sent collectively out into the universe. That's why we're doing some of the things that we're doing to ourselves as a people and to this planet that is taking the brunt of a separation mentality that says we as humans are separate from this planet that sustains us. That's why you need to take responsibility for your creations, because they not only affect you, but they affect everyone. Remember, we are all one. So everything that has ever happened and ever will happen starts with a thought. All thought is creative, but not all thoughts that go through your head are going to be manifested in your reality. Only those thoughts that you choose to pursue are going to be created by you. You see, you have total choice in all matters. Once you understand how important your thoughts are, you begin to get real selective about what you are thinking. When you're sleepwalking, you all too often put yourself on autopilot as far as what you choose to think. You know, you're still thinking about what you're choosing, or choosing what you are thinking about, but all too often it's an unconscious choice instead of a conscious choice. We have been conditioned for so long to just react to the external stimuli that we are presented with that we have stopped making conscious choices. That's why it's so important to wake up and be conscious. Only by being conscious can you see where your choices have led you and see if you have been served by your creations. You can't do that when you are sleepwalking. When you are sleepwalking, you accept the words of others as your own truth, and then you cannot understand why your life does not seem to reflect your innermost desires. So, pick out the thoughts that give you the grandest version of the greatest vision ever you held about who you are. And then write those thoughts down so that you don't lose the thread of where you want to go and who you want to be. Because beingness is what we're after here. Mahatma Gandhi said it. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Now, when you have written your thoughts down, you are using the second part of the creation equation, which is word. Thought, word, and deed. And word takes your desires and moves them from the internal world of your thought to the external world of physicality. And words expressed are extremely powerful, so once again it's important to monitor what you say and how you say it. Because here's something for you to consider. Words are the second level of creation and therefore very powerful. But words are also the least reliable purveyor of the truth. You know, our feelings and our experiences give us much more truth about what is real in our lives. But all too often when we make our private decisions about what is real, we go with the words that somebody else has told us rather than our own truths that we know to be true, our own experiences that we know to be true. You know, let me tell you a little something about the difference between believing something to be true and knowing something to be true. Now let's say that we were all gathered here today because you didn't know anything about riding a bicycle. You know, you had heard about this amazing machine, but you had no direct experience of one, and you had never ridden one before. So I'd bring a bicycle up here on stage, and I would say, well, you see this seat, and you see your seat? Well, we're going to put them together here. And then I would bring all kinds of experts up on stage, and we would talk about the laws of balance and inertia, and how by applying certain principles of movement and motion that you could ride the bicycle. And then I would get on the bike and I would ride it around the stage to show you how this mode of transportation could revolutionize your life. And then I would invite each and every one of you up on the stage to ride the bicycle. Well, you would approach that experience with an element of doubt and possibly fear. Because even with all the expert testimony and even with the demonstration that the bicycle could be ridden, you may have in you a belief that you could ride the bicycle, but you wouldn't have a knowing that you could ride the bicycle. You wouldn't have had the experience of riding a bike that would take you from a belief to a knowing. And ladies and gentlemen, when you know something to be true, you are way ahead in the creative process. Because a knowing eliminates doubt. That's why it's important to be careful about what you believe from some of your greatest teachers. People like your mother and father, your school teachers and religious leaders. And that's not to say that these people are trying to deceive you or purposely misleading you. Usually they are relaying their truths as they know them. But all too often their truths are told to them by such sources as the television or the newspaper or Charlie down at the neighborhood pub. So when you want to experience your own truth, go with your own truth. Don't take the word of someone on TV to tell you what you know in your guts. Go with your guts. And live your own truth of what you know, not what you believe. Because until you experience your belief, you really don't know. And of all the things that you should absolutely know with all your heart is something that is critical to your evolvement. This is something you should work on every day because it is the foundation of everything that happens in your life. If you have to prioritize anything, let it be this, and work on this every day. You must love yourself for who and what you are. This has to be your number one priority. If you don't accept and love yourself, then you are playing small. And your playing small doesn't serve you or the world. You know, Nelson Mandela, one of my heroes, said this so eloquently in his 1994 inauguration speech when he became president of South Africa. And he took it from another mentor of mine by the name of Marianne Williamson. And the talk is called, "Your Playing Small Doesn't Serve the World." And it goes like this. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small doesn't serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. Man, I love that talk. You know, we could have saved a lot of time here today just by listening to that and then going home and living it. So, how do you do that? How do you learn to love yourself unconditionally? Well, it all starts with a thought. Tell yourself what a wonderful person you are. You know it deep inside you anyway. Now tell yourself that this beautiful person that lies within you is going to be the beautiful person that the world sees. Quit relying on what other people tell you about you. You know more about you than they do. Now bring that truth forward and reveal to the world what you have known all along. That you are a beautiful child of God. And your playing small doesn't serve the world. And you know why? Because it doesn't serve you. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to manifest the glory of God that is within you. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Now listen to this. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. When you love yourself for who and what you are liberating yourself from your own fears. When you love yourself for who and what you are, your presence automatically liberates others. You are the key. You are the domino that topples all the others in our quest for world peace. Thought, word, and deed. You see how easy this process is? It's easy to think the thoughts and speak the words, but then you have to do the deeds or actions which ultimately manifest our creations. So let's talk a little bit about the deed part of the creation equation. And usually when we say the word deed, we're talking about doing something. But I want you to change your thinking here because, as I said in the beginning of the program, beingness creates doingness. So what we need to concentrate is on who we are being and not what we are doing. You see, this is the main difference between the sleepwalker and the person walking in awareness. The sleepwalker is always doing this and doing that and never really understanding what all this doingness is all about. And of course, what they end up with at the end of the day is a big pile of do-do. That was the humor part of the program. Now, the person walking in awareness is more concerned with who they are being and less concerned with what they are doing, because they understand the concept that from their beingness, will they do the things it takes to manifest the beingness they choose. So typically, the sleepwalker is being reactionary to most circumstances and events in their lives. Now, if you find that this is what you are doing, then you might want to look inside yourself to see who you have been being. And here's the deal. Look to what you have been doing to determine what you have been being. You know, if you are cheating on your golf score, then you are being a cheater. If you are lying to your friends in order to make yourself look better, then you are being a liar. If you are talking about your friends behind their back, then you are being a gossip. If you don't feel that you should share your bounty with the panhandler on the street, then you are not being compassionate. Everything we do comes from who we are being. And you can change your beingness in an instant. That's why it's so hard to be a sleepwalker and never understand why you keep doing things that don't serve you. You keep changing who you are being. You think you do this automatically. You think you don't have any choice in the matter. But that is wrong thinking, because you're at choice as to who you choose to be in any given instant. Now, you may think that you are just making these choices automatically, but that is wrong thinking. So, what it really boils down to is when you make these private decisions, is you are looking inside yourself and seeing, bringing forth what is inside of you. If you're sleepwalking, you are reacting to situations in an attempt to do something about them. So typically, you are using your past to make a decision about something that is confronting you in the present moment. If you come upon a situation that has caused you to be sad in the past, you will probably choose to be sad if you come upon a similar situation in the present. But it is your choice to be sad. Now, it may be made automatically, but it is still a choice. If you're walking in awareness, you may consciously choose to be happy. If you make the conscious choice to be happy in a sad situation, then you will do different things than if you had chosen to be sad. It all depends on what is inside of you that you choose to bring forth in the present moment. So, what is inside of you? Now, this reminds me of the parable of the orange, and I love this story because it has really told me about what is inside of me. Now, I want you to think of an orange. Nice, big, juicy orange. And we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to squeeze it really hard. So, what comes out? No, orange juice. And why is that? Well, because that's what's inside of an orange, right? You know, you're not going to get lemon juice or motor oil. You're going to get orange juice. Now, let's take this analogy and apply it to ourselves. If somebody squeezes you real hard, that is, they confront you or antagonize you in some way, what is going to come out of you? Well, typically, as a sleepwalker, what will come out of you is anger and confrontation and fear. And why is that? Well, because that's what's at the surface of our feelings. These reactionary qualities come forth whenever we are squeezed or confronted if we're not understanding what is inside of us. Now, when I heard this story, it really resonated with me, so I turned off the tape and I was driving down a country road. It was a beautiful, clear day, and I remember vividly, I was driving down this road and I heard this tape and I was going, wow, that really makes sense. And I was thinking to myself, well, what is inside of me? What aspects of myself do I bring forth when people put the squeeze on me? And you know, I knew that as a sleepwalker, I had these qualities of fear and confrontation and anger that I could bring forth at any time. And I thought to myself, well, what if I was so full of love that no matter how people squeezed me, what would come out of me is love? And so right then and there, I was driving down this road, I was going, love, 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 love. And there's some cows out there. I was going, love, 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 love those cows, love the trees, just love, 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 love. And I was just, man, I was just feeling good. I was going, you know, this could work. So I was just going, love, 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 love. It's something that I do to this day when I'm jogging. I'm like, love, 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 love. You know, this really feels good, you know. And I'd like you guys to feel as good as I do. So why don't you join me here? We'll just do a little simple love chant. Just follow me here. We'll just do a little love. Ready? Love, 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 love. A little bit faster now. Love, 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 love. A little slower now. Love, 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 love. Okay, you're on your own now. Love, 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 love. Do you feel it? You know, I tell you, you try this sometime because you will feel it. It's a wonderful feeling, and it's so easy to get. Because what we are is love. At the core of our being is nothing but love. Love is the glue that holds the universe together. That's why it's so easy to get this feeling we're feeling now. And as we did that, you know, we completed the first two parts of the creation equation. You know, we were thinking about love as I was telling my story, and then we said the word love as we did the little love chant there. And now, if you want to create love in your life, just go out and be love when you leave here today. Thought, word, and deed. Fill your thoughts with love. Fill your words with love, and fill your actions with love-sponsored deeds. You know, that's what I did, and I tell you, when people squeeze me now, what comes out of me is love. And from that love, I am able to make more conscious choices on who I choose to be when I encounter life situations. What I choose to create in the moment when I, to be the grandest version of the greatest vision ever I held about who I am. Now, did you hear what I just said? I said what I choose to create in the moment, not what I choose to react with. Sleepwalkers react to what's happening. I choose to create what's happening. And what I choose to create depends on where I am going in the present moment. I have a vision of where I choose to be, and then I move toward that vision. Sleepwalkers lack vision. For most sleepwalkers, the clearest vision they have is where they have been. Sleepwalkers like to live in the past and make most of their choices based on what they have done or been in the past. Now, I'm here to tell you that you are not your past. Now, a lot of people would disagree with that. They'd say, well, Dick, the reason I am the way I am today is because I had abused childhood. Or my dad was an alcoholic, or I'm an alcoholic, or my mother liked my sister better, or whatever. But I'm here to tell you that you are not your past. Now, you can remember your past, and if you are aware, you would learn from your past experiences about what serves you and what doesn't serve you. But our observations tell us that most people don't learn from their past experiences. They keep making the same choices over and over and keep getting the same results over and over. And our society is the same way. We keep telling each other that we can stop killing each other by going to war and killing each other. Sounds like the definition of insanity, doesn't it? Well, I'm here to tell you, you are not your past. Now, I want you to visualize that you're on a boat. And you're going out across a flat, calm lake on a beautiful sunny day. It's a nice visualization, isn't it? And you're heading out across this lake. It's really nice. And you're in the back of the boat. It's what we call the stern of the boat for us mariners in here. And you're looking out to where you've been, and you look down in the water. So what do you see? You see the wake. So I want you to answer these three questions. First of all, what is the wake? Well, the wake is the trail that is left behind by the boat. Nothing more and nothing less. Secondly, what's driving the boat? Well, the boat is being driven by the present moment energy generated by the engine. That is what is making the boat move forward. Now, the third and most important question is this. Is it possible for the wake to drive the boat? And of course, the answer is no. It's just a trail that is left behind. So your wake, your trail of past experiences, does not determine your future. Only your present moment thoughts determine what direction you are going to propel your life. And your life is propelled forward each and every second and nanosecond by the present moment decisions you make to determine who and what you are being, not by what you are doing. It's who you are being. You know, you don't do happy and then you are. First you be happy and then you do happy things. So if you would listen to this material with an open heart and an open mind, then I would like of you to think of yourself as a creating machine. You know, I think Shakespeare put it best when he said, all the world is a stage, and we are but players on a stage of life. So as we conclude our program here, I want to take you somewhere, and it's an adventure full of great rewards and riches that only you can imagine. So to start us on our journey, I'd like you to close your eyes for a few minutes here and just relax into your seat and just get yourself comfortable with where you are and get in touch with that silent observer that is with you at all times. I'd like you to think about your life as a life play. I want you to take a minute or two and just review your life as it has been up until this point in time. I want you to take a look at the characters that you had in your play and the significant events that happened in your life. You can do this with your silent observer because this observer has been with you on the whole journey. So just take a few minutes here and just take a look at your life play and see how it has unfolded so far. And keeping your eyes closed, I want you to bring yourself and the observer up to the present moment. And I want you to make an agreement with your observer to help you write the future of your play. I want you to think about how you desire your play to turn out in the future. If you have a vision of how you want your play to turn out, then think about what would it take to reach your vision. If you don't have a vision of your future, then create one right now. Just imagine and develop the play that suits you. It's your play. So have fun with it or be very serious. It's your play. Now just imagine how you choose for the rest of your life to unfold. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to bring the observer back from the future to this present moment. And I want you to make an agreement with the observer to direct your play to fit what you desire. Become familiar with your play because not only are you the director of the play, but you are also the star of the play. Okay, so open your hearts and open your eyes and open your minds. And do you have a little clearer vision of what you would like for the rest of your life? Remember, you are a creating machine, and your playing small doesn't serve the world. So go out and create happiness for others, because in doing so, that big mirror in the sky is going to create happiness for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. We got time for a few questions. If anyone would like to ask Dick a question, we got an open mic here. Well, if there are no questions, thank you very much.
Well, I must
Dick.
have explained it really well. I tell you, folks, I sure appreciate you coming here. You don't know how much I appreciate this, because the way I have built my philosophy is that I teach what I need to learn. And that's a philosophy you might take up in life too, because we all are messengers. We're all delivering this message to life, about life. So I really appreciate you showing up here, and if you take something away that you can help to improve your life, it's been all worthwhile. So thanks again.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax deductible. This recording is not copyrighted, and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.